most pressing issue that we're all confronting right now is the sober realization by the rest of the world, number one, by the American political system, number two. Yesterday you had a bunch of Republicans running around going, I haven't had time to read the whistleblower report, by the American people, and even by a few people over at Fox so-called News, that we've got a mob boss in the White House. We've got a criminal, a serial criminal, and an incompetent one. It's like the gang that can't shoot straight in the White House. And he's got all these people around him who are trying to cover up for him, including Bill Barr, who, successfully covered up for Reagan and Bush. He thought, hey, I can do this. I've done it before. Ain't working now. And, you got people, lawyers over there saying, oh, well, let's put this, evidence of what Peter DeFazio yesterday on the floor of the House of Representatives called treason. And I agree with him. I mean, what else can you call it? When the president of the United States goes to a foreign official and says, hey, nice little country you got there, be a shame if something happened to it if you don't get me some dirt on my political opponent. Maybe this is a matter of definitions, and maybe treason isn't quite the right word. I mean, the Republicans are all flipped out because Peter DeFazio used this word on the floor of the House. In fact, we should invite Peter on to discuss it. And, saying, take that back. And, there actually is a rule. One of the House rules is that you cannot speak disparagingly of other federal officers, of other elected officials. I remember when Cynthia McKinney back, 10 years ago, was it, Sean? Thereabouts? About a decade ago. It was when George Bush was president, and maybe even more than 10 years ago. In fact, it must have been. And I wrote an op-ed that was published first on Common Dreams that called out Dick Cheney and said that, Dick Cheney had committed crimes, that Dick Cheney was a criminal, a war criminal specifically is what I called him. And Cynthia McKinney went to the floor of the House of Representatives and read this out loud and into the record. And about halfway through and she's reading my piece, and about halfway through it gets to the point where I call Dick Cheney a war criminal. And whoever was up at the speaker's chair, they rotates, starts banging his gavel and saying, you are out of order, you may not do that, you may not say, and she just keeps reading. And a couple of guys came out and literally dragged her off the floor of the House as she continued reading this piece. She came on this show a day or so later to talk about it. I think that was the first time that we'd ever talked, but there is this rule that you may not disparage. Now, calling Dick Cheney a war criminal, I would say that that's simply accurate. It's simply the truth. Dick Cheney is a war criminal, as is George W. Bush, as were many of the senior administration officials in his administration. It's amazing to me to watch Condi Rice get her image rehabilitated. She's a war criminal. And just like Donald Trump is a traitor. Now, maybe being he's not serving the interests of his country. He's serving his own personal interests. He's serving the interests of other countries. And now what we've got is this worldwide oligarchy that has emerged, that you've got billionaires in the United States funding and encouraging. And country after country after country is being taken over by these so-called populist strongmen, right-wingers, who are seizing control of the media. Viktor Orban in Hungary has basically seized control of the media by having his billionaire buddies literally buy up all the major media in Hungary. And then the billionaires, for the ones that haven't been bought up, the billionaires are buying enormous amounts of advertising in them, so they're completely beholden to the oligarch class in Hungary. And then he did a takeover of their equivalent of National Public Radio. Well, the same thing is happening in Turkey. The same thing has already happened in Egypt. Something similar to this is happening in the Philippines. It's happening all over the world. And we're seeing, Bolsonaro in Brazil. And so we're seeing this rush to oligarchy. And Donald Trump, of course, represents a piece of that. A billionaire as president of the United States. How is that not oligarchy? He is an oligarch. We always, we use this word oligarch in reference to people from Russia, right? Which is crazy. We've got oligarchs right here in the United States. Corrupt billionaires who are who are actively and aggressively and frankly proudly corrupting our political process. So, is Trump a traitor or is he committing treason? I'd say both. You may just say he's a traitor. You may just say he's a criminal or a mob boss. I mean, look at what he did yesterday, saying that the whistleblower and the sources for the whistleblower, that the whistleblower is collecting this information. First of all, they're saying, it's secondhand information. Right, this is what the Republicans and the senators say. Well, it's and Hannity and Limbaugh and all these guys. Oh, it's secondhand information. Right, of course it is. Therefore, we need to hear from the primary sources. We need to subpoena the people that he's quoting. He says Barr's up to his eyeballs in this. Bring in Barr. He says the White House lawyers, Pat Cipollone or Cipollone, I'm not sure how you say it, and some of these other guys in the White House. Bring him in and have him testify. Wouldn't you want that if you think it might not be credible because it's secondhand information? Well, yeah, let's get the primary sources. The White House this morning admitted that they're hiding this stuff inside this secure server. They now have a secret server. Isn't that ironic? Donald Trump, who built his political career on complaining about Hillary Clinton's private server, has his own secret server on which he's hiding, quote, politically sensitive documents. Not national security sensitive, politically sensitive. When did the national security apparatus get into politics? I mean, if it's happened before now, that's a problem. Happening now, that's impeachable. That is corruption at an insanely high level. So anyhow, Trump comes out yesterday and he says, this is the equivalent of spying. And you know what we used to do to spies? We used to fry them. I mean, he didn't say we used to fry them. That was left implicit. But keep in mind, the number one lawyer to the mafia in the United States in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s was Roy Cohn. He was the lawyer to the Gigante family. He was the lawyer to the Trafficante family. I mean, no, it wasn't Trafficante. In any case, he was the lawyer to the two largest New York mob families. He was famous for it. He was proud of it. And he was also the lawyer to Donald Trump, who was a wannabe New York mobster. And the New York mobsters were big in the real estate business. It's a great way to launder money. As you can see, I mean, Trump and his kids bragging, oh, yeah, we got all this Russian money. And it's not just Russian money. We got Saudi money. And, I love the Saudis. They give me $40-50 million for a condo. Yeah, they bought the entire 45th floor of Trump Tower. It's owned by Saudi Arabia, or by Saudis, or both. So here he is bragging about, I'm a mob boss, I'm a made man. So what he was doing yesterday in saying that the whistleblower or his sources or both should be executed is witness tampering. It's a federal felony. I mean, can you imagine if you were indicted for a crime and you were to go on national television and say, well, the people who are testifying about me, they should be executed. And keep in mind what happened to like Christine Blasey Ford when Donald Trump tweeted about her. She was getting death threats and stalkers. She and her entire family had to go into hiding. Her life is still not back together. So not only is the whistleblower probably in need of the witness protection program, but think about the people who are his sources in the White House, who are thinking, okay, my boss, the President of the United States, just called for my death. That is literally tampering with witnesses in a federal investigation. And we know it's a federal investigation because the Director of National Intelligence, Joseph McGuire, yesterday told us that they had turned this all over to the FBI. It is currently being investigated. although the FBI works for Bill Barr. So maybe it's not. Maybe they just turn it over to the FBI and comes to a screeching halt and drops into the wastebasket. But here we are. I mean, this should be the second article of impeachment. And then we need to find out, what these other people were doing. We also need to, one of the things in the whistleblower complaint was that this was not the first time Trump has done this. And that now we don't know what this is, right? We do know this is, specifically, he said this is not the first time that politically sensitive conversations with foreign leaders have been moved into this ultra-secure place. And so what does Russia do? They issue a press release saying, well, I hope that he doesn't release conversations with President Putin, which I thought was brilliant. Is this Russia saying, please don't throw us in that briar patch? Like, Trump is no longer useful, or maybe he is, maybe he never was, or maybe it's like time to throw him over the, run over him with the bus or whatever. I mean, are they trying to egg us on, or was this a sincere effort to say, that really should be a privileged communication? Because frankly, it really should be. I mean, at the end of the day, Trump, in fact, the president of Ukraine was saying, I thought he was just going to release his side of the conversation. This guy is so humiliated in his own country because now the whole world, and including everybody in Ukraine, sees a transcript of him basically saying, Mr. President, may I shine your shoes, please? There's a little speck over here. Let me get it for you.